In this video, we will talk about how to use the labs or complete the labs in My IT Lab. By the time you watch this video, you should have already watched the training video. Please note that the training video pertains to Office 2013, so the interface has changed slightly in Office 2016. When you open up the labs, you will find all 11 labs here. The first lab that we're going to do is the lab for word processing 1. To open up that lab, you simply double click on it. Notice I have opened up the lab once and just did a couple of questions so you can see that your score will be posted here and the time that you took to actually attempt that lab. Now, if you get stuck or complete the lab and get a score that's not favorable, you can actually do the lab up to 3 times. So I'm going to open the lab up again. The lab will open up within the browser, and you notice from the training the interface has changed a little bit in Office 2016. Again, your training will have this exact same interface, but the video that I have for you has the interface from 2013. So what's different about this? Down here, this has changed a little bit, and also some of the navigation tools look a little differently. So right here, I'm on the first question. Again, please note that the first question pertains to the first question in the textbook. So if you have the textbook, this will be a one-to-one mapping of the questions in the textbook with the lab. If I click on View All, I can get a sense for how many questions I have to complete in this lab. There are 29 questions in this lab. I can skip around and go to any of the questions here to complete them. What's different between the training and the lab, notice that the learning aids are no longer available. So you cannot watch a video or get help from the textbook while you're in the lab. I do stress that if you want to go back to the training during the lab, you should open it up in a different browser. So here I have the lab opened in Firefox. If I wanted to go back to the training, I would simply open up Chrome and then go to My IT Lab in Chrome and open up the training. In the lab, I am allowing you to have both the training and the labs open at the same time. So for this first question here, the question says display a blank Microsoft document. So I'm simply going to click on the blank document. Actually, I'm going to click somewhere else, and I see that when I clicked on that, I got that wrong, and my attempts remaining will be 9 attempts. For each question, you will get 10 attempts to complete the task. My suggestion is if you get down to 7 attempts, you may want to get into the training. If you get down to 5 attempts and you still haven't completed it, you can call over the graduate assistant or myself to help you. You cannot call on another student. When we come over, we will simply observe you do the task one more time. If we see that you're getting it wrong because you're missing one little slight thing, it says left justified and you were right justifying, we will help you with that. But if it's something that you have no idea of how to do, we're going to tell you to actually do the training. Normally the training will give you some clue and get you closer to the completion of that task. So again, if you call us over with 5 attempts left over, that's because you have already done the training, and we'll know because you will have some clue as to what you're supposed to do. So I'm going to complete this task now by clicking on blank document. Once I click on that, you see that that line is no longer bold, and it's now asking me to do the next task. For this task, I'm going to type in sharks : myth or fact exclamation point. Of course, it should have been a question mark. It says, please press enter twice. I'm going to do that, and I have something wrong, so it's not even letting me hit enter. I'm going to go back and put a question mark there, and then hit enter 1 and 2 times, and I'm done with that particular question. Sometimes you will go back and correct a particular question, and try to do it again and it just will not work. If that is the case, again, you get down to 7 attempts, you know you're doing it right. Hit the reset button and it will revert back to the beginning of the question. Now, in some cases, you might have a 3-part question, which means if you get it wrong on part 3, you have to go back to part 1, that you should have ample enough time to complete the task. Okay, so I'm now done with question number 1, and I'm on to question number 2. It says position the insertion point at the end of the document and then insert the text from the 1A info file. So I'm going to position my cursor at the end of the document by just clicking down here. Now in the instruction it tells you to hit the N key on the keyboard. Let's see if it works for me to just click at the bottom of the document and put it there. So I'm going to go to Insert, and then I want to insert, and through the training I know I should go here and click on Text File. I click on Text File and I see that I have a document on a USB drive that is simply a simulated USB drive. So you are not to have USB drives or any drives for this class. Everything on this website is simulated. So I'm going to double click and open up that file, and now it's in there, and task number 2 is now complete. I see for the next task that I have to type in a bit of stuff here, so I'm going to skip ahead and go to a question number 7, that tells me to, I'm going to launch it or double click on it and launch it. It tells me to change the picture position so that it is right aligned horizontally relative to the margin. So I look at this picture right there and I'm not sure exactly where they want me to put that picture. So I'm going to skip ahead to the next question, question number 8, and it shows me exactly where that picture belongs. So I think to myself, okay, all I need to do now is drag that picture to that designated area. In some cases you will be right about this, but in most cases this is not the task that they want you to complete. So I'm going to put this picture here and it says incorrect. And I'm going to say, well, maybe I didn't put it in the right spot, so let me do it again, and incorrect. The problem is, the clue here is that it wants it right aligned relative to the margin, which means there's some other stuff going on here. In order for me to figure out what those other things are, I should have completed the training. I need to go to the Format menu, click on Position, More Layout, and I want to align it right relative to the margin. Once I do that and click OK, I see that that question is now complete. So I can skip around and do as many questions as I think that I can get done quickly, and then come back to the more difficult questions and train for them if need be. My suggestion is to take notes before you come to the lab throughout that prior week on that particular lab, and when you come to the lab, have your notes in front of you so you can breeze through some of this work. The last thing, saving this lab. If you want to save this lab, you can click on the Save button and it will save all the questions that you have completed. One thing that's nice about MyIT Lab is after you complete a question, it is automatically saved on that server. So if your computer freezes or if you stop altogether, those questions will be scored automatically without you having to do anything. If you save the work and come back, only the ones that you have not completed will show up and allow you to do them. If in fact you're doing a take-home and you do part of it one night and part of it another night, the Save button is what you want to click on, so you will keep all of the ones that you've already completed. If you are in the lab, you really don't need to use the Save button because you have the ability to just leave the project open and use another browser to get into the training. The Submit button is what you'll use to submit your work. Now, I'm not going to do all of this here, but if I did all of these and completed them to fruition, I would then hit the submit button and I would get another score for it. When you're doing your take-homes, you want to make sure you do not hit the submit button in between the days that you're doing it, because if you do hit the submit button, you're going to have to start all over from the beginning. So let's say on Saturday you do 10 questions, you save it, and then when you come back Sunday, you complete the other 19 questions that you have to do. Once you are done with everything, you hit the submit button, and it's going to ask you, are you sure you want to submit? You will then click OK. If you go throughout the entire lab, when you get to the last question, it will automatically submit it for you if you have not skipped any questions. If you have skipped a question, when you get to the very last question, it will cycle back and go back to the ones that you have skipped. Not until you have finished all the questions will it automatically submit for you. So if you get to the last question and you figure, I skipped 2 questions, but I'm not going to answer them because I'm still going to get a 91% and I don't need to answer them, you must hit the submit button so the lab is submitted for me to grade. So I'm going to click OK. And once I click OK, I see I have another score here. So I have 2 attempts here, and the highest score of the 2 attempts are posted right here. This concludes the lab video. Again, it's a good idea to watch the training video before you go about doing the labs.